Hi everyone, welcome back to Mattress Money Investing. Today we're going to talk about some exciting topics: savings accounts, CDs, and net investment income tax. What about the taxes we pay on these things? And then finally, what is this cash value life insurance and how might it compare to these investment vehicles? I know, I said investment vehicles. They're really protecting your principal. They don't protect your investment from taxes, but they do attempt to mitigate inflation. All right, we have first this little spreadsheet. It's actually based upon a spreadsheet that I got from James Barber over at Oregon Cash Flow Pro. Thank you, James. I'm going to use that for the later comparison between the savings accounts and the CDs. I was using ING Direct, who was later bought by Capital One 360. What did my high yield savings accounts earn over the past years? And I found statements going back to 2018. And so I went through, and originally I was in their money market account because that was actually their high yield account. Once Capital One 360 took over, they had to create a new high yield account that made more than the old high yield account, which was the traditional savings. And then again, later, they decided to reduce the interest rate on that money market account and have a new high interest account. So you had to move your money again to the performance savings. I think there might actually be some litigation about this. I'm not involved in that. But if you followed their highest interest accounts, starting with their savings account back in the day, then the money market, then the performance savings, where would you have ended up? So if in every year you switched to the highest interest account, then from 2018 to 2025, you would have averaged 2.28%. That's probably less than inflation, but let's not talk too much about inflation in this video. Let's then apply income tax to that. Okay, folks, so here's where it started. I received the IRS 1099 int on my savings account where we have some of our emergency funds. And right here you can see it yielded some interest, but guess what? Now it's time to pay some taxes on that interest. And if you're lucky, you also get to pay net investment income tax. Here we go. Here's net investment income tax. And then what you do is you get to add up all those 1099 ints and then have some fun paying some additional taxes on those, an additional tax rate of 3.8% above your marginal tax rate. And so if we swap back to our original spreadsheet and put in a tax bracket, we'll say 24%, maybe we're at the top of that bracket, and then lucky enough to pay the net investment income tax. So suddenly you're at 28%. Let's make sure that we can see. Oh, it's 27.8. See, I wanted to be fair about that. But now suddenly you see that wonderful high yield savings account over the years, which sometimes was netting 2%, sometimes over 4%, we made after taxes 1.65%. Amazing. Someone might say, hey, what if you did CDs? Maybe they'll make more money than this high yield savings account. Well, sadly, the answer to that is no. I pulled the average CD rates from Bankrate, and if we look at the 1-year CD rates and the 5-year CD rates, and then we give them the benefit of the doubt, and we just buy the best CD every year, assuming that these were the best rates every year, and I just looked at what the rate was according to Bankrate in end of July, because most of these interest values I showed you were from July or August statements in each year, trying to keep it apples to apples. But again, after taxes, using the best every single year, 0.9%. So we're not really coming ahead at all once you start thinking about inflation. Like, this is not going to keep up with inflation. We should always think about what is our real after-tax return on investment for all of our investment vehicles, right? And so people think maybe I'm considering some advanced strategies when I think about investing in some cash value life insurance, perhaps whole life. Again, James Barber, Oregon Cash Flow Pro. Thank you, sir. He provided this data on historical whole life dividend rates. Now, importantly, these are gross dividend rates. Depending on your health rating and age, you probably need to subtract, let's just go with a safe value. Subtract 2% from these values, and that might be what your cash value rate of return would be in your cash value life insurance policy. We see that the dividend rates averaged upper 5%. Subtract 2%. Now you're talking about upper 3% range. Importantly, that's tax deferred, but more importantly, all of these life insurance carriers offer a built-in line of credit, and typically it's at either a very reasonable fixed rate or it's at a floating rate, but the floating rate might be proportional to what the policy internally is going to grow at. So it may not be quite what they call a wash loan, but it might be close. And so most people imagine that you can access your funds in a whole life insurance policy, the cash value portion at least, at a near zero net cost to borrow. And so you could treat it like a savings account, CD, emergency fund replacement. Now, does this make sense for you or for me? If you look at it, you get a better yield than you do in high yield savings or CDs, significantly better yield. And again, these are gross rates. Subtract 2% to ballpark your net rate. And when you consider the after-tax gains, it's magnified. The higher tax bracket you're in, the more it becomes a no-brainer. Would you consider replacing your savings account, CDs, whatever you're using to hold your emergency funds with something like cash value life insurance? It sure looks like after taxes, you can increase your return significantly and have life insurance as well. They sort of go together. Made a little picture of life insurance with a piggy bank. There's your cash value life insurance. And this is trying to show that when you start this policy, there's going to be a startup cost. Every year there's going to be sort of a maintenance cost. You might think of this sort of like a fancy credit card. Maybe there's an application fee and some sort of annual contribution to maintain that card. The question is, are you getting more in benefits out of that than you paid in startup and sort of ongoing costs? And I think that's really proportional here to what are your tax savings. So let me know in the comments, is this something that you would consider, are considering, surprised to know? Let's kickstart some discussion. And again, please like and subscribe. Thank you.